Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
Donald Trump says he respects President Putin in an interview aired on Fox News, a statement which doesn't sit well with Western media outlets. France's National Front leader Marine Le Pen has launched her presidential campaign in Lyon. RT speaks exclusively to her niece and member of the party, Marion Le Pen.
For now, we are the only power in French politics that is pushing forward the Sovereign project.
And worries over a new refugee centre opening in the German city of Leipzig sees nearby locals fencing off their apartments as they fear for their security. Live from our international news centre, this is RT. My name's Ewan O'Neill. Welcome to the programme. Donald Trump has said he respects the Russian President Vladimir Putin in an interview on Fox News.
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with them.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
However, it was another comment Trump made about his Russian counterpart that led to a backlash from Western media.
This is seemingly the President of the United States standing up for Vladimir Putin.
A president speaks with a moral voice when he's re-engaging the country. He suggested that America was on the equivalent par with somebody who was a killer.
Another day, another anxiety attack. So what did he say this time? Well, in a Fox interview, Trump said he respected the Russian president and stopped the press. It's not just Russia who's the baddie.
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with them.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent? Do you think our country's so innocent?
I don't know of any government leaders that are killers in America.
Well, take a look at what we've done, too. We've made a lot of mistakes. I've been against the war in Iraq from the beginning.
Yeah, mistakes are different than...
A lot of mistakes, okay, but a lot of people were killed.
This short clip resulted in pandemonium in the media. Did he really just compare the US to big bad Russia? Wait, does he have a point?
Clear. Come on. Clear.
I asked Obama to bring my dad back to life.
For the self-proclaimed greatest country in the world, this could all be a hard pill to swallow. But apparently, that's not the heart of the matter. What Trump said is so despicable because, well, America is just different, right?
I'm trying to imagine your response if President Obama had defended the murderous reign of Putin by saying, you think our country's so innocent?
Well, look, I'm not going to critique the president's every utterance, but I do think America is exceptional. America is different. We don't operate in any way the way the Russians do. I think there's a clear distinction here.
Donald Trump's probably making a statement of fact there. The United States does not have clean hands, especially around the world. I cannot count how many governments the United States or the CIA has overthrown. And if you count the amount of people that Barack Obama killed by drones just in the last 4 years, it's mind-boggling. So for the media to act all holier than thou and acrimonious, or Bill O'Reilly to be somehow on a pedestal, you know, debasing Donald Trump for making the offhanded reply that he did, I think it's completely ridiculous.
So once again, President Trump said something people don't want to hear. Although that looks like something we're just going to have to get used to. But what about the things that people do want to hear, like defeating ISIL, even if it takes working with Russia? Now, surely that's worth a headline or two.
I don't understand the demonization of Russia when it comes to us working together to further mutual goals. I'm not sure exactly why that doesn't make sense. Again, to go back to the Democrats, go back to the left, and their accusations of against the right, saying that we don't want to work with our allies or even not work with our enemies, where they're so willing to work with our enemies. I don't know why they would be so upset that we would look to work with Russia. Let's not forget that it was Barack Obama who had famously and laughably that reset button. I think we do want to work toward a positive relationship. I don't know why that's a problem. I don't know why they're all aghast at that, to be honest.
Well, additionally, in the interview, Donald Trump said he's considering withholding federal funds from California if it continues to make official moves to become a sanctuary state for illegal immigrants. Lawmakers in the state are pushing for a bill that would establish sanctuary for over 2 million people already living there. Riots broke out at the University of California, Berkeley last week over a speech against so-called sanctuary campuses meant to protect undocumented immigrant students. Meanwhile, authorities in San Francisco have written a letter to Homeland Security saying they have no intention of complying with the president's executive orders on immigration. And a petition seeking California's independence from the U.S. has seen a surge in signatories since President Trump took office.
We must prepare for very uncertain times and reaffirm the basic principles that have made California the great exception that it is.
Well, the row over California's status is another indicator of the current division in the U.S., as Donald Trump continues to face resistance over his immigration order. That order is currently being blocked by a judge after a federal court rejected an appeal by the Trump administration on Sunday.
I find that a temporary restraining order is in the public interest. I find that the court should and will grant the temporary restraining order.
What is our country coming to when a judge can halt a Homeland Security travel ban and anyone, even with bad intentions, can come into the U.S.?
It's obviously a historic decision and an important one for the rule of law and for the people of the state of Washington and the people of our country. We're a nation of laws. Folks not everybody may like this decision. I'm certain the president will not like this decision, but it is his job, it is his responsibility, it is his obligation as our president to honor it, and I'll make sure he does.
It undoubtedly would be contrary to the public interest for this court to ignore Congress's judgment that the president should make such determinations, to second-guess the president's determination, or to override the president's determination based on purported interests of a single state.
I think we will see many more confrontations because the U.S. Legal establishment is comprised of individuals, and those individuals have very diverse political leanings. There are many Democrats, many Republicans, many liberals and conservatives within the judicial system in America. Donald Trump has every right, and he will push the agenda which he campaigned on. And in that sense, he is raising the bar for this administration and for future political administrations in terms of what the public expect from campaign promises. Normally, presidential candidates make promises and fulfill almost none of them once they get into office.
Trump is the president of the United States and is able to do executive orders, and as long as he acts within the law, then he can push forward the agenda that he let the American people know he was going to do, and which they voted for. And he's got the support of at least, half of the population.
Well, the Trump administration's view for the future is up for discussion on Sophie & Co. today. Sophie Shevardnadze interviews a former Wall Street banker and the author of the best-selling book, House of Cards, William D. Cohen.
We went from 8 years where businessmen were sort of persona non grata in Washington to complete change in that picture where businessmen seem to have more of a welcoming opportunity in Washington. They can seem to be invited every other day to meet with President Trump. So I think basically that portends good things for job growth, increased profitability for companies, and general increase in people's wealth and well-being. So I think it has the potential to be very positive, but we'll just have to wait and see what the details are.
Moving on now, Marine Le Pen, the niece of France's National Front leader, has been speaking exclusively to RT. The politician claims the party is the sole one which has a chance of winning this year's presidential election that offers serious change.
For now, we are the only power in French politics that is pushing forward the sovereign project, based on Europe that is formed of national sovereign states. There are no other candidates that support this project and have the potential opportunity to even get through the first round.
Well, the leader of the party, Marine Le Pen, was met with cheers as she outlined her key policies at a rally in Lyon. She's pledging a so-called Frexit, a referendum on France's membership of the European Union within half a year if elected president.
As a president, I will announce a referendum on the membership of the European Union in 6 months. I will discuss with our European partners the renegotiation of France's position in the Union. The EU is a failure which has kept none of its promises, particularly in the spheres of prosperity and security. This system chains us, does not function, and what's worse, ruins our society. We are going to apply a procedure according to which an illegal immigrant can never be legalized and certainly not naturalized. An outlaw situation cannot be regulated by law. When a person is inspired to settle in a country, one does not begin by violating laws.
Well, as things stand, according to the latest polls, Marine Le Pen would be the president. François Fillon sits second in those latest polls, while independent candidate and former socialist Emmanuel Macron is third. Now, his recent rally was surprising in its similarities to Le Pen's, as well as another independent candidate now running for president, Jean-Luc Mélenchon.
We can no longer defend a political system that weakens democracy every day. We can no longer praise the European project without proposing at the same time another vision of Europe. I refuse to accept that a man in the name of religion can refuse to shake the hand of a woman.
We do not want to go to war with Russia. The Russians are our partners. Defensive Europe is the Europe of war, and we stand for a peaceful Europe. France will not accommodate any military action.
Well, on this statement, the similar statements, we spoke exclusively to members of the National Front who say mainstream politicians emulate the party's policies to win votes.
I think that in every election campaign, the right and the left are trying to use the views of the National Front. Nicolas Sarkozy did it in 2007, but when he came to power, he did the opposite to what he pledged. It seems like in every campaign, the absolute disoriented right and left use our ideas in order to be elected. But the French people know that these people won't do anything.
It's a huge talent of Macron to create his imitation based on nothing that actually represents his program. This is a real marketing product. I sincerely believe that this won't help him to win votes.
Beyond absurd and extremely dangerous. That's how the UK press have described an apparent security lapse which made the British Prime Minister's plans visible to anyone using a real-time flight tracker. Information about the flight dubbed May Force One was made visible on flight tracking websites. It was carrying Theresa May from the US to Turkey, a country on high terror alert. Aviation security expert Richard Bloom says there are plenty of methods to conceal the location of a plane, standard process for senior government officials, but that none were used.
With all the information that has been communicated, there's no question that more and more people, if they have the motivation, could have tracked that particular aircraft, its altitude, its speed, its inclination, its overall location. If you're responsible for an aircraft carrying a very important person, like the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, there are many things you can do to make it more difficult to track that aircraft. Apparently, that wasn't done in this case.
And it seems security concerns don't end there, as the British press have been revealing. Coming up, locals in the German city of Leipzig are worried about the construction of a refugee shelter on their doorstep. That and more coming up after this.
What do you think about sanctions?
Easy right or wrong, but I definitely think sanctions are better than conflict.
You don't perform for diplomatic reasons. You perform for humanitarian ways.
I'm talking obviously about Edward Snowden.
I believe he's a hero. I believe he's coming directly from his heart.
Let's start back in the German city of Leipzig, where locals have seemingly taken a leaf out of Donald Trump's book, fearing for their security. Residents of one apartment complex have put up a 1.5-metre high fence as a refugee shelter is being built across the street from them. And the barrier's erection, well, it wasn't cheap, costing around €20,000. Building fences and walls, of course, have been deemed a short-term solution for some across Europe, as the continent continues to struggle with the huge influx of migrants. Well, we spoke to a member of a group against the Islamization of Europe and also a political commentator about the implications of the Leipzig Wall.
Even when you're looking at this fence, it's only 1 meter 60 high. This wouldn't be enough of protection.
Build a wall up against people that they perceive as being dangerous just because they are of a different culture or a different country. It's really sad to see that.
In Germany, there are parts of the cities where the state no longer exists, where you have Arab mafia clans controlling everything. When you have this situation of mass violence, when you have all these problems with Islamization and also already terrorist plots committed by so-called refugees, I think the only solution is to close the borders now and then look for policies to actually solve the problems of mass migration inside Germany.
Everybody is human, and what we have here is people who are in a terrible situation, fleeing their home and fleeing possible death and fleeing perhaps some terrible scenes that they were witnesses to.
Most of them are not refugees or are coming to Germany because of social benefits, and therefore they also, a lot of them have a view on German people, like on people you have to conquer, on people you have to subjugate.
Building a wall is an expensive thing. Maybe that same money should be invested in organizing meetings, organizing dinners, organizing, big soup fests, having interpreters come and allow these people to talk to each other.
And also you had the events in Cologne, and also this year there have been, again, rapes. There have been people burning churches and attacking German civilians on the streets. It is now more important to guarantee the security of the German people, the security of Germany's citizens, and not to think about strange ideals.
Crowds have gathered outside a court in Barcelona as former Catalan president Artur Mas is set to go on trial in a matter of hours. Thousands of people have filled the streets in support of the former leader who helped organise the region's informal independence referendum back in 2014. He's accused of civil disobedience and abuse of power after he allowed the poll to go ahead in defiance of a court order. Now prosecutors want him banned from public service for up to 10 years. Catalonia held a symbolic non-binding referendum in 2014. Catalans were asked whether they thought the region should be a state, and if so, whether it should be independent from Madrid. Out of the 2.3 million people who voted, over 80% said yes to both questions. But the referendum was deemed illegal. The government argued Spain's constitution does not allow regions to unilaterally make decisions that affect the whole country. Earlier we heard from a spokesperson for the European Partnership for Independence. She says democracy is being put on trial.
Just to underline that in 2014, the Catalan government did not hold a referendum. It was just a consultation, a process of participation. And of course, any Democrat could not consider legitimate to put democracy on trial. We are completely in surprise to see how low level of democratic system the Spanish state is acting. It's not legitimate, of course.
Yeah, Spain has vowed to use all legal means at its disposal to prevent Catalonia from holding a second independence referendum later this year. According to a report by online news site El Mundo, the Spanish government has drastic plans for Catalonia if the region takes any illegal steps to push for independence. It claims Madrid will close polling booths at schools and seek to take control of local police, normally overseen by the Catalan regional government. The measures will also reportedly include payment cuts to civil servants if they refuse to take orders from Madrid. Anna Arke again believes the planned measures will show Madrid policy as being contrary to the region's wishes.
Well, it looks like this is what they are saying from the Spanish state, but obviously there's no way we can know what the Spanish state will end up doing. What it's for sure is that if they end up with any of these blocking measures, the ones that are going to be alone facing themselves the shame of putting themselves in the international scenario as a non-democratic state is the Spanish state. We don't think we're going to be alone in any way, because we know our rights and we are determined to defend them. We know we are a Catalan people. We have the right to ask ourselves whether or not we want independence of our country.
Turning our attention briefly now to the Middle East, where animals have been caught up in the ongoing fighting in Iraq. Residents of a zoo in Mosul, a city where a US-backed anti-ISIL offensive is taking place, have been abandoned and left to starve. A word of warning, you may find the following images upsetting. Yeah, one of the effects of a war that we perhaps don't take into account. Next, here on the programme, life on the Donetsk front line in eastern Ukraine through the eyes of a young girl. Stay with us.